I set my half-empty glass of water down on the nearest table, the ice clinking softly, like a final punctuation mark. The laughter from Derek's circle still echoed behind me as I walked out of the ballroom at the Four Seasons in Boston, my footsteps steady on the marble floor. No one called after me. Not the investors in their tailored suits, not the tech reporters scribbling notes, and especially not my daughter Sarah, who had turned her face away the moment her husband made his joke. By the time I reached the parking garage and slid into my 12-year-old Honda Accord, the plan had already crystallized in my mind. I wasn't angry in the explosive way most people expect. It was colder than that, a clear-eyed recognition that some structures are built on sand, and it's only a matter of time before they fall. Let me take you back to how it all started, because understanding the foundation matters. My name is Doug Morrison, and for 35 years I taught industrial arts and technical drafting at Boston Technical High School in Dorchester. I showed generations of kids how to read blueprints, measure lumber with precision, weld metal that would hold under pressure, and most importantly, how to spot a weak joint before it breaks. The pay was modest, around $52,000 a year near the end, but I watched former students open their own contracting firms, become master electricians, or land stable jobs at places like General Electric. That was enough for me. My wife Elena passed away from breast cancer when Sarah was 17, leaving just the two of us in our modest two-family house in Jamaica Plain. We kept things simple, home-cooked meals, weekend projects in the basement workshop I built myself, and honest conversations at the kitchen table. Sarah was sharp, always had been, valedictorian, full scholarship to Boston University for Business Administration, then a solid marketing role downtown. 2 years ago, she started dating Derek Holloway, a 34-year-old Harvard MBA who founded Apex Dynamics, an AI-powered supply chain optimization startup based in Cambridge. She couldn't stop talking about him. Visionary, risk-taker, already raised several million in venture capital. Our first meeting was at an upscale Italian place in the North End where menus didn't show prices. I wore my best blazer, the one I'd had tailored years ago for school events. Derek arrived late. No apology. Phone in hand scrolling emails. His quick once-over took in my watch. Shoes. Everything. Mr. Morrison. Great to meet you, he said with a handshake that felt like an afterthought. Sarah says you're in education. Shop class. Right? Industrial arts. I corrected quietly. Drafting. Fabrication. Problem-solving with real materials. He nodded absently. Hands-on stuff. Cool. Then he launched into a 40-minute monologue about Apex Dynamics. Their platform supposedly used proprietary machine learning to slash delivery times for mid-sized e-commerce firms by 30%. Revenue projections. Investor names dropped like currency. 5-year plan to IPO. Every so often he'd slip in digs about playing it safe versus true entrepreneurship. When Sarah asked about my latest class project, a student who'd just landed an apprenticeship, I got 2 sentences in before Derek's phone buzzed. He checked it mid-conversation. The check came to $320. He paid with a flourish. Don't worry about it, Doug. Teacher salaries in Massachusetts aren't exactly venture capital territory. Huh. That night I drove home gripping the wheel tighter than usual. Not because of the money, but the casual dismissal in his tone. Over the following months, the pattern sharpened. Derek visited our house once, scanning the second-hand couch, the oak bookshelf I'd crafted in the 80s, the worn hardwood floors. Cozy place, he said, which meant small and outdated. His parents, Robert and Evelyn Holloway, lived in a multi-million-dollar brownstone on Beacon Hill. Robert had retired early from pharma sales. Evelyn chaired charity boards. Their dinner invitation came in September. Crystal chandeliers. Plates I was afraid to touch. So, Doug, Robert said over wine, Sarah mentions you're in public education. 35 years at a technical high school, I replied. Evelyn's smile was tight. How noble. Working with those students. It must be so fulfilling. The implication hung there, kids who wouldn't attend Harvard or BU, who worked with their hands because other paths weren't open. Derek chimed in later. Don't worry,
Sarah.
I'll make sure our family has real security. Not everyone can provide that lifestyle. 3 weeks later, Sarah called. Ecstatic. Derek had proposed. Wedding planning began immediately. The engagement party was at Apex Dynamics' sleek office loft in Cambridge, exposed brick. Expensive pendant lights. 70 guests, including investors and employees. Sarah pulled me aside near the entrance.
Dad.
Derek's toast is coming up. Some investors are conservative. Maybe keep your teaching stories general? I stared at her. You're asking me to minimize what I do? She looked away. Just don't make it awkward tonight. Derek took the stage. Microphone in hand. Success demands vision and risk, he said. While some choose steady paychecks and summers off, entrepreneurs build the future. His eyes flicked toward me. Laughter rippled when his mother whispered loudly about government pensions and modest means. Sarah stayed silent beside Derek's sister. I set down my untouched beer and left quietly. That night at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd helped Sarah with homework, I felt the shift. I'd spent decades teaching kids to identify flaws in designs. Derek's world was a flawed design. In my basement workshop that October evening, I pulled out old files from my 6 years as a quality control inspector for an engineering firm before teaching. I'd learned to audit financials, spot compliance issues, and uncover padded invoices. My laptop opened to Apex Dynamics site. Their recent funding round, $5 million at a $20 million valuation. Press releases boasted explosive growth, but the numbers felt inflated. I called an old colleague, now doing due diligence for venture firms.
Doug.
Apex? Derek Holloway's outfit, he said after a pause. Off the record. If I saw those projections in a pitch. Red flags everywhere. Revenue recognition smells aggressive. Customer base overstated. I spent weeks diving deeper. Public filings with the Massachusetts Secretary of State and SEC showed their accounting method, booking 3-year contracts as full revenue up front despite partial collections. A client signing for $50,000 annually became $150,000 recognized immediately. Retention rates claimed 90% looked questionable from anonymous Glassdoor posts by ex-employees complaining of pressure to fabricate metrics and unpaid overtime. Derek's proprietary AI was, according to a former student now at a Boston tech firm, a repackaged open-source routing algorithm with cosmetic tweaks. By November, I had a thick dossier, discrepancies between public statements and filings, technical analysis showing no true innovation, screenshots of deleted employee posts. None screamed outright fraud alone, but collectively it painted a house of cards propped by exaggeration. The wedding was set for mid-January at a private club in Back Bay, $800 a plate. Sarah limited my guest list to 2 due to venue constraints. I didn't fight it. Derek's investor gala arrived the week before Christmas at the Marriott Long Wharf. Sarah invited me, saying it would be good to see his world. I bought a charcoal gray suit that fit my frame well, practical, not flashy. The ballroom pulsed with blue LEDs and screens flashing hockey stick growth charts. Derek took the stage. 3 years ago, I chose risk over safety. While some settle for predictable pensions and secure jobs. His gaze found me briefly. Laughter followed when Evelyn whispered about tenure safety nets. During informal Q&A later, Derek wandered near me, microphone in hand, joking with young staff. One asked about confidence, ignoring safe career advice. Derek gestured my way from 15 feet away. Take my father-in-law here, 35 years in a classroom, stable benefits, Old car. Nothing wrong with maintenance mode. But it's not building empires. He's in a $200 suit driving something older than our interns. That's the safe path.
The group laughed.
Some uncomfortably, but enough joined in. Evelyn smirked behind her glass. Sarah, nearby, flushed red but turned to chat with someone else instead of speaking up. I finished my water, walked past the glowing false metrics, and exited into the cold December night. In my car, clarity settled like frost. Back home, I finalized the file, 35 pages of evidence. That night, I drafted an anonymous complaint to the SEC and Massachusetts Securities Division using a temporary email and VPN. Attachments detailed everything: improper revenue booking, inflated subscriber counts including trials as active, misrepresented technology. I hit send at nearly midnight on December 21st. Then I slept. Christmas passed quietly. I joined Sarah and Derek at his condo for dinner, bringing a modest gift, saying nothing about the gala. Derek was polite in that distant, superior way. Sarah seemed relieved I wasn't causing waves. I spent Boxing Day in the workshop building a small oak keepsake box. My hands steady on the tools, measuring twice, cutting once, ensuring joints would endure. The first article hit the Boston Globe business section on January 4th. Boston tech startup under SEC scrutiny for financial reporting practices. It named Apex Dynamics, questioning revenue recognition and potential misrepresentations to investors. Derek's statement called it routine, but I knew better. Regulators don't back off easily. Sarah called that evening, voice strained.
Dad, did you see it?
This could destroy the wedding. The company. If the numbers are solid, nothing to fear, I replied calmly. Silence stretched. You didn't? I'm just a shop teacher.
Sarah.
What do I know about securities filings? More coverage followed, TechCrunch, local business journals, citing unnamed sources, and digging into metrics. 2 key investors withdrew. Valuation plunged from $20 million to $9 million. Derek called me directly 4 days before the wedding. Voice sharp. This started after the gala. I know it was you somehow.
Derek.
I'm 62. Teaching kids to use saws safely. If regulators found issues, perhaps examine why they existed. He hung up furious. The wedding proceeded. I sat at table 19 near the service doors. Sarah looked radiant walking the aisle. For those moments, I saw only my daughter. Reception speeches praised Derek's ambition. Mine had been quietly removed from the program. At coat check afterward, Derek cornered me alone. I don't know exactly how you did it, but lawyers are investigating. When they prove it. Prove what? I met his eyes. I haven't lied or harassed. If your practices invited scrutiny, that's on you. You're a bitter man who can't accept his daughter chose success. No, I said evenly. I'm a father who values honesty. You should try it. 2 weeks post-wedding, the Massachusetts Securities Division released preliminary findings, material misrepresentations via upfront revenue booking of multi-year deals, overstated user metrics, technology not truly proprietary. Valuation crashed to $4 million. 5 investors filed fraud suits. Derek was ousted as CEO by the board. Sarah didn't call initially. I returned to school, mentoring a talented grade 11 student named Marcus on a jewelry box project for his grandmother, staying late to perfect dovetail joints. In March, Sarah appeared at my door on a Sunday, eyes swollen. We sat at the kitchen table. Derek knows it was you. He can't prove it, but he does. Is that why you're here, to accuse?
No.
I need to understand why.
Tears came.
Why destroy his career? Humiliate him? Ruin us? I chose words carefully. At that gala, Derek publicly mocked my life's work. My car. My clothes. Everything earned over decades. He did it deliberately. And you said nothing. You turned away. She flinched. It was just talk. It wasn't. His company rested on deception, misleading investors,
Pressuring staff.
building on lies. That's not entrepreneurship. That's fraud. I exposed it. There's a difference. She wiped her eyes. I should have defended you. At the engagement party, the gala, I stayed silent. Yes, you should have. Derek now worked at a consulting firm earning $45,000, angry constantly. Their marriage was fracturing. He demanded she choose. She needed space. Staying with a friend. You're always welcome here, I said. At the door she paused. I looked into what happened, the documentation, anonymous filing, the analysis. That wasn't a washed-up shop teacher. That was brilliant. I teach finding and fixing problems. Derek's dishonesty was the problem. Sarah filed for divorce weeks later. She called afterward. I'm getting my own place in Quincy.
2-bedroom.
Could you help build a bookshelf? Like the one you made for my room at 14? I still have the plans, I said. This weekend, we spent Saturday measuring walls, sketching, cutting pine boards in her empty apartment. She asked about joinery, finishes. I taught patiently, demonstrating proper sanding, showing how integrity of materials determines longevity. While sanding, she said softly, I'm sorry,
Dad. For everything.
Derek was wrong about you. Your work, your life. You're not a failure. You're the opposite. I'm just a shop teacher, I replied. No, you taught me honest work and integrity matter. I forgot that. The finished bookshelf stood straight. Simple but enduring. As I packed tools, she ran her hand over the wood. Thank you for this. For everything. We hugged. And tension that had lingered for months eased. Driving home through Boston streets, past Beacon Hill brownstones, past Cambridge offices now listing Apex space for lease, I reflected on lessons I'd given students. Measure twice. Cut once. Strength of any build depends on material integrity. Derek built with lies and shortcuts. Collapse was inevitable. I used skills honed over decades, patience, analysis, precision, to defend dignity and expose truth. Tomorrow I'd return to class, helping Marcus refine those dovetail joints. Honest work. Honest consequences. Derek learned contempt carries cost. Sarah and I were rebuilding something real. The sun dipped low. Skies streaked orange over the city. For the first time since that North End dinner, I felt fully myself again, not mocked, not diminished, but a man who'd applied life's blueprint correctly. Integrity always outlasts flash. The question lingers for us all, when faced with disrespect built on deception. Do we stay silent? Or do we measure carefully and make the necessary cut?